This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Right, there he is. Welcome back, my friend. Hope you're in a better place right now.
Good to be with you, Big O. It is very good to be back after a classic Super Bowl. Good to talk to you, sir. How are you?
I am doing great. Can't complain. Unless, I guess, you're an Eagles fan, then you can complain all season long. So
you can flip cars, you can take to the streets, you can. Yeah, that was a scene. That was something.
So give us your 2 cents on the final play and the 2 penalties that Bradbury committed in one play. Because
listen,
I love how people say he held twice. Okay, let's make sure we mention that, because not enough people mention that he held twice on the same play. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, one of them was flagrant, and I understood Greg Olsen in real time, given the initial camera view that he had, questioning the call in that moment. But I mean, I think it was perfectly clear, and that was then reinforced by Bradbury's own reaction after the game. Everybody associated with the Eagles basically had the same reaction, which was that we are not here to complain about correct calls by the officials, right? Like, it was just like, I am sympathetic to people who simply wanted to see Jalen Hurts have the ball with like a minute to go and a chance to win the game. Like, that would have been great. It would have made it an absolute. It was already, I think it was an all-time Super Bowl, but that would have brought it into, like, I don't know, one of the 2 or 3 best that we've ever seen, right? But we didn't get it because they committed a legitimate penalty that was actually flagged, and I think that's fine. And again, I really appreciate the reaction from the Eagles themselves after the game, because they, if anybody is gonna really feel the fact that all they had to do was stop any of those Chiefs drives in the second half. And listen, easier said than done. It's the Chiefs, it's Mahomes, it's Kelsey, and all that, but they had 4 drives in the second half. They got 3 touchdowns and a field goal, and they could have had 4 touchdowns. So, like, you got to stop them somewhere.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and I had no problem with the call because you put the referee in that position, and you committed 2 penalties in the same play, and I use the analogy like, hey, brother, listen, it says 65 miles an hour. I get it. Everybody's doing 72, 73, but listen, the cop's sitting there on the sidelines, and you're doing 73, 74, and you think, well, he's not going to stop me. Woo! And, well, were you speeding? Yeah, I was, but no. Were you speeding? Yeah. Okay, well, then here's the ticket. And you put the cop in a position where he can stop you or not. And maybe others were speeding, but he didn't like the way you were speeding, and you changed lanes. And so that's kind of what it was. Maybe he saw it and he goes, well, whoa, this guy's tugging twice. I got to throw it. It's like,
if all you saw of that play is the fact that Patrick Mahomes overthrew a dude by like 9 yards in that situation, that right there should have been enough to question whether there was a hold, right? Like, Patrick Mahomes is not going to overthrow somebody by like 8 or 9 yards in any scenario, let alone that scenario. So I thought it was a pretty flagrant hold, well called. It's really unfortunate that the coverage and that Twitter, that all social platforms basically turned toward criticizing a call that was, I think, perfectly correct.
Well, that's kind of what we do, right? Rihanna, oh God, this, that. And I had no problem with her performance, by the way. I thought she did a great job, and considering that she was pregnant, even more props to her that she's standing up on that damn platform and, performing, and she's pregnant and she's still keeping her cool and all that. I give her many, many props for that. I had no problem with the performance, but that's the beauty of, social media. Anything and everything that was going on in that game, we were, reacting to it right away, so it is what it is. Did you give her a passing grade on her performance?
Oh, shoot, yeah. With or without, the fact of being pregnant. I don't have Rihanna necessarily like in the normal playlist, right? But man, that is a lot of hits. Like that is an artist with I believe the kids would call them bangers. Like she's got like, and she left some in the, you know, in the quiver too, right? Like she's got more. Like she could do another 15-minute halftime show with a whole bunch of other familiar hits. I think she's awesome.
Yeah, man, she did a terrific job, and I think she handled it very classy, you know, considering her physical nature.
The thing is, somebody always needs to declare, you know, and obviously this is the nature of Twitter. This is the nature of like sort of reactionary, you know, observations that we have today. Nobody can ever be even remotely nuanced about anything. It's either got to be the greatest of all time, or it's got to be the worst that we've ever seen. It's never like, yeah, that was really good. I enjoyed that. Like that's not even you can't even say that, right?
Yeah,
you've got to insist that it is the greatest thing you've ever seen or one of the worst things you've ever seen.
Amen. It is what it is. All right, what'd you think of the Tua interviews on Radio Row? Because my God, they were bad. They were bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's also not something that you want to, you don't want to read a whole lot into anything that gets said on Radio Row, right? Like everybody's trying to promote products. Everybody's trying to promote odd things. You know, everybody's been given a script that they have to follow. I don't know. It's all good fun. I wouldn't, of all the reasons to you know, fret about Tua and the future of the Dolphins, I wouldn't, you know, anything said on Radio Row would not really get to me.
No, I know, but it's just, and you know what I thought was, because there were reports that, well, if the Dolphins win, you know, Tua could come back and all that, you know, if they beat the Bills and all that. And then what was revealed in those interviews is that the Dolphins really didn't let him go through the protocol till the season ended. Actually, that's when he really went through the final stages of the protocol so he can be cleared. And that's why it took so long, because the Dolphins had no intentions on letting him play. So they didn't want him to go through the protocols during the regular season. They're at the end of the last couple of weeks, and then he clears, and then he's getting ideas of playing, because he was saying basically they protected me from me. And I thought that was actually really smart on the Dolphins' part.
Yeah, and it's, you know, but they finally came around to it, right? Because the Dolphins obviously took a lot of heat earlier in the season for not necessarily protecting Tua from himself. It was probably the most uncomfortable part of Miami's, of an otherwise really encouraging season for Miami, right? Because you can tell yourself a story about where this franchise is going, and it's really good. The one negative, and certainly I felt like really the only glaring negative on McDaniel's resume this year was the handling of Tua, especially early on. Super uncomfortable. He'd obviously been concussed. I don't know how many official concussions we're calling this for him now. If we're calling it 2, if we're calling it 3. But it's not nothing, you know. And it is going to be an ongoing.
The first one was his neck. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
He lost his balance and almost fell because it was his neck. There's no way he was woozy or anything in his head. No, come on.
No, certainly didn't appear that way. Yeah. So that, and hopefully it has changed things in the NFL for the better that we've come through this episode. But it is really the one thing that hangs over the franchise, I suppose, right now. But everything else is clearly on an upward trajectory for Miami.
I agree. And he's taken judo, and you know, I've explained this several times. I took judo for a few years, and it does teach you how to fall and how to break your fall and those kind of things. And so that might help him out a little bit too, because we see it with.
No, it's a good point, because like his issue has been like falling backward, like the back of the head, right, against the turf. Yeah,
and he's got to learn how to break the fall and learn to roll and those kind of things. And we see it with the quarterbacks that didn't play baseball, and they slide awkwardly, or they don't know how to slide, or all that stuff. And then you see, that dude probably didn't play baseball. And so he doesn't know how to slide. And it happens a lot in today's world, because when we grew up, we used to like play. We changed with the seasons. That's kind of the way you played in your neighborhood when we were younger. Kids don't do that nowadays. Now they like latch on to one sport and that's all they play so they can get great at that sport. In our day, it was a little different. So you kind of got to know all the different sports, and you've seen it. That guys that don't know how to slide, they get injured, they jam their legs or knees or ankles because they don't know how to freaking slide. And then they got to learn how to slide. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing here. Falling, there's also a tech, there's a what's it called? Not a technicality, God, what am I thinking of? What's the word I'm thinking of? There's a rhythm to falling that you can brace yourself, that you can protect yourself. And it's happened to me several times since I learned judo when I was a kid. It's come through in my life in certain times that I've fallen, but I know how to break my fall and roll and those kind of things. It's not going to happen all the time, but there'll be instances where it might just help out Tua.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point that you make about sliding too. I know there were multiple cases throughout the season where I just, watching the Bears as I do, like Justin Fields can be a really awkward slider, and he stays really high a lot of the time when he's sliding, right? So like he can take some hits that he doesn't need to take as he's going to the ground. But it
Right.
is an interesting point because you definitely can tell the kids who were like 3 and 4 sport, youth
Russell
athletes,
Wilson.
right? Yeah.
Russell Wilson slides like he's a pro. Why?
Yeah.
Well, because he was a pro baseball player. So,
Yep.
it's he has that gift. And you know what? That was a great example of Fields is one of those guys that you can tell was not a baseball guy because of the awkwardness of the way he slides. I mean, with Joe Flacco, you can understand because he's as long as a giraffe, so it's kind of hard. And yet he still has learned how to slide. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
they
most
probably weren't asking young Joe Flacco to steal bases either, right? Like he probably
no.
wasn't sliding as often as many of the other athletes in the NFL. But Fields is funky too because he'll go really hard like into a knee when he's sliding too, right? And he's not gracefully sliding. He's like,
No, I know.
It's like a crash landing every time he does it. Makes me just as nervous to watch him slide as it does to watch him take hits.
Oh, we've seen guys that don't know how to slide jam their knees and
Mm-hmm.
ankles and all that kind of stuff because again, they just don't have the technique, down pat. Your thoughts on the Fangio hire?
Yeah, I think he's great, and I think he's in the right role now, right? I think it's I think it's overall a good move that
Yeah, just not a
people
head
can feel.
coach, right?
Right. Yeah. Like I think that's relatively clear. I mean, can do it in a pinch, but probably not somebody that you want, guiding the future of the franchise, but you throw him in his role and you throw him in his wheelhouse where he's really comfortable and you're going to get great results. So,
And you're a Bears fan, so you had a little taste of Fangio being your defensive coordinator for a
and it
few
was
years.
good. And the players were super loyal to it. Like players loved him. Obviously excelled in the role. So it's just a phenomenal hire, right? Like you've just got somebody who is among the best in the world at exactly that. And you're not asking him to do too much. So I think it's phenomenal.
All right, let's play the quarterback shell game. Where does Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, and Jimmy Garoppolo land?
Yeah, first of all, I feel like there's a very clear hierarchy here. I don't know how a lot of people feel about this, but I think Derek Carr is much better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And maybe this is me just kind of dismissing a lot of Niners quarterbacks generally, but I can't
he gets injured every year, Garoppolo.
Right. So that's one thing. And Derek Carr, whatever you think about him, incredibly resilient and has played through some stuff too. And Derek Carr's like best moments, and not that he can sustain them, not that we've seen Derek Carr just go on a heater that lasts like 6 games, 8 games, whatever. He doesn't necessarily do that, but man, when Derek Carr gets rolling, that guy's a very good quarterback. So I think it's obviously Aaron Rodgers is like an all-time inner circle quarterback. Derek Carr for me is very clearly in that is the next tier, and then it's Jimmy after that. So this is all by way of saying that I think Jimmy is just kind of an afterthought, and he's like, you know, the very last option in musical chairs here. I don't have. I'm not sure where. Like, I don't know what's going on in Aaron Rodgers' head at any given time, right?
Really? I'm going to ask you that one. Come on.
I hate to try
There's not a dark enough room
slide in
for
there.
you to figure that out, bro.
No, not a dark enough room. There's
you can't even go in space and enter in a black hole and figure out what's going on in Aaron Rodgers' head.
I personally have not. I don't know the pleasures of hallucinogenic teas, so I can't get inside the man's head. I can't imagine that he wants to go to the Jets, though, simply because that's the Favre thing, right? And I just can't imagine.
And New York, he and that media. No, dude, he doesn't want that, bro.
No, especially not coming from Green Bay. Like, he's got this really nice thing right now where he can talk to, you know, Pat McAfee, and he can talk to like the very, very friendly and relatively small collection.
And that's
yeah.
it. You know, he's got a couple
guys. You've got your guys in Green Bay, and it's never going to be like a mob scene at the locker or anything like that. It's not going to be crazy in
camp. In New York, it'll be 150, 200 mics in your face every week.
I think he'd say some really interesting stuff. I think we'd hear some fantastic things out of Aaron Rodgers. I'd kind of like to see him, you know, just for the sake, not that Devontae Adams can't survive with anybody else, but I think Rodgers in Vegas would be really fun. I think Carr with the Panthers would be really fun, because it's good for DJ Moore. It's good for a fun collection of skill players. But I would also
most of us have been saying New Orleans,
that was the other thing that was going to fall out of my mouth is I would really like to see Derek Carr in New Orleans, because I feel like Chris Olave, with just a competent quarterback, like could just have a supernova season at some point.
You mentioned something really good, because they have weapons they have a couple weapons in Carolina. They lost their back, but you could get a back. You can get another back, and their defense. They have some young players on that defense. That team would take a step forward right away with Derek.
Yeah, I think, and plus Derek Carr would be probably by orders of magnitude the best quarterback that DJ Moore has ever played with. I think DJ Moore is really good. He was not like throw out everything that's happened in his pro career, right? Because he kind of caught the tail end of Cam Newton. He's not really played, obviously, with Sam Darnold and every other the sort of rogues gallery of quarterbacks that we've seen in Carolina over the last couple of years. Even at Maryland, his final year there, they were cycling through quarterbacks, and dudes were nobody was good, and guys were getting hurt, and guys were getting benched, and like that was an absolute mess. So we've never seen what it looks like for DJ Moore to have like a great quarterback. And I think, we can disagree about Derek Carr, but I certainly think he's like a top 15, top 16 NFL quarterback, and that would be by far the most talented passer that DJ Moore has ever played with. So I would love to see that.
Hey, some people believe in Kirk Cousins. Okay, so let me ask you something. You believe in Kirk Cousins, or would you believe more in Derek Carr? I'm going Derek Carr.
I think they're pretty much the same tier of quarter. The real problem with Kirk Cousins is that you're paying all this money for Kirk Cousins. So like if we're gonna throw dozens of millions of dollars at a quarterback, they have to be able to overcome some stuff, right? Because we are going to have roster shortcomings elsewhere, and I don't think Kirk Cousins is of the level of quarterback where like. Okay, because we have Kirk, it doesn't matter that, we don't have an edge rusher, and it doesn't matter that we don't have this, we don't have that, right? Like, I don't think he's that level. I think he's similar to Derek Carr, but I've seen Derek Carr, like, let's remember what Derek Carr did just 2 years ago, right? Like, forget this last season. 2 years ago, everything went wrong for that team, right? From the Ruggs arrest, and Waller gets hurt, and the head coach has to leave in the middle of the season, and like the wheels are falling off right and left for Vegas. And Derek Carr gets them to the playoffs and gets them to like and I think passed for like 4,800 yards on the year. Gets them basically to within they have a chance to score at the end of the game to knock Cincinnati out of the postseason. Cincinnati goes on to the Super Bowl. Like that was a great year from Derek Carr that we're just going to forget, right? Because it didn't really lead anywhere, and they were a first round exit and all that. But that was a phenomenal season considering the circumstances, and we've just not seen Kirk Cousins do that, right? Like Kirk Cousins has made some throws, and he's big arm talent. And he was a fun little meme for a lot of the season, and I don't really have there are obvious shortcomings to Kirk Cousins, but we've never seen him do I think what Derek Carr just did a couple years ago.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. No doubt about it. They've got the Chiefs favored again for next year. You agreeing with that?
I mean, I feel like if I had to set it right now, knowing what we know, it's just so hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes because he's probably never going to have. First of all, Kelsey's clearly lost nothing, right? We're gonna make the case in fantasy. People are gonna try to make the case that wrong side of 30, aging, whatnot. Has he ever looked better than he looked this last year? Right? Like he's showing no signs of age, and he was great in the most important weeks at the end of the season.
I'll give you something. If Tony stays healthy, I think he's a super dynamic player. And I loved him coming out of Florida, and I know it didn't work out with the Giants, and now they traded him over there, and he's made impactful plays for them a whole bunch of times now this year since they picked him up. If they get him back on the field on a consistent basis, then they will have their home run hitter next to Kelsey, and that offense could actually get even scarier. Okay.
You know what I think the perfect use for Kadarius Toney might be within that offense, given everything that we've seen them do over the years. Like think back to what McCole Hardman was doing before he got hurt this year, where they just they kind of scrapped the idea of making McCole Hardman like some deep threat every route kind of receiver, and they're like we're just gonna make you a big part of the red zone offense, goal to go offense. That guy had scored 5 touchdowns in 3 games prior to getting hurt. And they were handing him the ball, and they were getting it to him in space, and they were creating fun little mismatches for him. And obviously, Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy have done great things near the goal line, over the years. And they were creating some really fun situations for Hardman. You do that with Toney. Toney's an even more electric athlete and a little bit quicker. Maybe not like long speed faster, but he's quicker. He's about as quick as anybody in the NFL, right? Like. Yeah. Him used in that situation,
a stronger player too, because I've seen him break tackles also.
Yeah. Like if you're not asking Kadarius Toney to learn every route in the playbook, and we're not going to ask you to do something that you've never done before. We're just going to put you in space and tell you to be a playmaker while being on a chessboard with guys with Pacheco, with Kelsey. I mean, he could sneak into 10 or 12 touchdowns if he stays healthy. So Toney's really fun. You've got an actual sorcerer at quarterback, right? Like, I mean, that look what we just got from a hobbled Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that guy's going to pile up 5,000 yard season. So, yeah, I think
he was pulling away from people in the middle of the field with a high ankle sprain. Right? I'm like, what the hell does this guy have in him? Like, what is going on? That adrenaline is carrying his ass, dude, because that run he had up the middle of the field, I was like, what, dude? He's way faster than Tua with a high ankle sprain. I mean, that's crazy, bro. I mean,
he's just at an entirely separate level from almost any other quarterback right now. And the league is full of great quarterbacks right at this moment. Like, this is sort of a kind of fun golden age. There's a lot of talent out there, even among people who don't see the chessboard the way Patrick Mahomes does. There's guys with incredible traits right now. The AFC is tough. Like, the AFC looks like it's just going to be an absolute meat grinder for a few years here, but it's so difficult to bet against Patrick Mahomes at this point.
All right, what do you got going on Yahoo this week so folks can check you out, my man?
We're ramping up fantasy baseball coverage, actually, but we're going to have plenty of football content out there. Nobody's stopping the fantasy football forecast, our podcast. That's going to keep rolling through the off season, and pretty soon we're going to start talking. We're going to start talking draft.
Okay, I like it. Are you going to the combine?
I'm not going to the combine. I'm going to Vegas this week for a fantasy industry conference. Combine's close to me though.
Sure.
And I and I want to really do the combine at some point, because I find it super interesting, and I'm usually glued to it like on TV, but I have not gone previously.
Well, you should go one year, bro. We'll hang and we'll make the rounds together in the evenings.
I am here for it.
Personnel people and agents and scouts and all kinds of crap all throughout the bars. So
Indy can give you a pretty fun like 2 or 3 days. Like, it's not, I don't need to be in Indy for a week, but 2-3 days, Indy can be fun.
Yeah. No, the downtown area has got enough to do, overall. Yeah, you're right. It's a cool little downtown area. And because they built all those bridges and tunnels to connect, you can get away from the cold, which can be a bitch, because sometimes you turn that corner and it's like a Chicago wind that comes at you and it just slices you right in half. That kind of crap you get. The kind of stuff that people get in Chicago all the time.
I am intimately familiar with the kind of stuff.
Yes,
we got a lovely day, right? It's like 50 degrees right now. It's beautiful. I'm sure that won't last because it's February, but it's I'm not complaining about our weather right now.
No, you cannot. Follow him on Twitter, by the way, at Andy Behrens, and catch his work there at Yahoo Sports. Andy, as always, appreciate you. Great to have you back on the horse, my friend. We'll catch up next week. Thank you.
Yeah, very much appreciate you, Big O. Thank you.
No problem, my friend. Appreciate you. Always got your back. That is Andy Behrens. Sports Girls now got 8 amazing locations. Yeah, baby. What are you waiting for? Get your asses down there. 8 great locations. We just added the one in Doral, which is just absolutely awesome. Take advantage. Mondays, by the way, $7 single smash burger. Tuesdays, which is today, $2 tacos. You can choose between chicken, beef, or fish. And tomorrow on Wednesday, the kids will eat free with the purchase of an adult entree. Get on out to Sports Grill. Go to sportsgrill.com and check out one of their 8 great locations. Get the one nearest you. sportsgrill.com.
This has been
This is the